This game is heating up, folks. Frank squares up like a butcher block on defense. Audie with the fadeaway. She's on fire! Literally, that is. The net has been burned to a crisp.
Gillis, live on stage.
I'm a bit of a history buff, which, by the way, that is early onset Republican.
His biggest tour ever is coming to Des Moines.
You're a white dude in your 20s and 30s, and you're like, I can't stop reading about World War II. It's coming, bro.
See Shane Gillis with his unmistakable comedic style. Live at Wells Fargo Arena Saturday, May 31st. Get tickets now at iowaeventcenter.com. For more, visit ShaneMGillis.com.
Two guys, two Chris's, one network. Iowa Everywhere. It's time for Two Guys with Chris Williams and Chris Hassel. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery from the Channel Seed Studios. Where? Everywhere. Live and always on demand at Iowa Everywhere.
Williams, we're live.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're live.
Sorry, but it's been a really stressful morning, and oftentimes I actually will stop like while you're talking, and I'll read a book during the show. Quite often, it's
just
pretty,
like AJ Brown during a game.
I was glad to see that yesterday. That
what
I'm
book
not the
was
only
that
person.
you're reading? Was that
Geronimo, Leadership Strategies of an American Warrior by Mike Leach? Actually, an incredible book. Anybody really, when we launched this Iowa Everywhere thing, I was like, man, I got to get better. I got to better see in the world. And who better to teach me than the great American warrior Geronimo and Mike Leach?
You heard about this one that A.J. Brown was reading, Inner Excellence? Have you read that?
I haven't, but I thought that was just awesome story. I don't know if it. I don't really know what else to read into it. Like if he should be reading a book during the game, but I thought that it just cracked me up last night when I saw that.
He says it's nothing new. He says I think he said he often reads during the game. I mean,
after every drive, I think he has the book there at least.
Just reads a passage from it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel left out today because I'm one of the few people in the world that knows how to read and won't.
Yeah, I always actually have a book for you. I just got to get it in the mail.
That's not a good idea. Usually
I know.
books that are sent to me are never opened.
This one?
So, yeah, that one. I got it for everybody.
Creating Superfans.
Yeah.
That looks like a children's book. Are there pictures in there?
Teaches you branding and all sorts of stuff. That's
Graphs.
really important.
Okay, so
what
there's some
separates
diagrams.
us. It's what separates what we do from the big corporate shops. with our advertisers, with our listeners. It's a very good book. Highly recommended.
Okay. I might skim through there.
Welcome to the show.
I'm dressed up today because I have an early show. I have to go right from here to work. So that's if anybody's wondering, that's why.
Are you doing the Super Bowl this year?
No, we're not going. Well, I shouldn't say we're not going. We're not sending as many people as we normally do. We're in the process of being sold, like Paramount. There's this whole sale merger with Paramount that's
who's buying you?
Going to be going through at some point this season. I don't know. I try not to pay attention to it. You can easily look it up.
It'll just heighten anxiety.
Yeah, I mean it's until we learn what's changing. It's not.
Just do your job.
Yeah, put my head down, do my job. No, so I'm not going to Nolan's. I'll be right here. You're gonna be traveling more than me this winter and spring with Iowa State basketball.
I am. Yeah, I'll be in Arizona in a couple of weeks. We're actually going with the Murphys to the Arizona State game. I'm gonna go sit in the stands for that one
with Keith and Jenny.
Yep.
Really? Mm-hmm. Are you going to go to some of Colin Murphy's frat parties?
Well, I think I am going to work out with him. I'm going to talk to our friends at Game Day Men's Health about sneaking in some tea for him because he's getting ready for this big fight. And I know he doesn't need it, but I think it can't hurt at this point.
No,
now,
the last thing that kid needs is more tea. I'm sorry. Don't let him anywhere near Game Day Men's Health.
Well, I will see Colin. Yes, that's going to be a thing. And then I'm going to go down and cover the Arizona game since it's big month. That'll be a huge game. I mean, both teams are 4-0 in the Big 12 right now. I'll plan to be at Kansas in a couple weeks, and then I'm going to plan to go to that Houston game too. And just it's special times, man. You can't take it for granted.
You might as well.
You got to go all in.
If you're not going to do it now, then you're never going to do it.
Correct.
Like there's never been a better moment. This is going to be the day where Iowa State earns its highest ranking in program history. Never been number 2 in the country. That's going to happen today.
And the number 1 team, it's actually kind of cool because they played the number 1 team, so we've seen that game. And then Duke is Auburn's only loss. Mm-hmm. So they've all kind of had run-ins with each other which is pretty rare, I would think, in college basketball, and because they don't play like the cool non-cons like we used to. So, anyways, we are presented by our friends at Fareway Meat and Grocery. Gonna make me a pork loin that I bought there. I think I might actually. It's still colder than a witch's titty out here. It's actually colder than it was last time we talked, Chris. It is freezing out there, but we will be. I'm gonna pull out the old smoker next weekend. We got the Chili Bowl Nationals, a little sprint car race that happens down in Tulsa every year. So I'm pulling out the smoker this weekend, Van Winkle. If you want to swing by, the smoker it's got its. Good. I got that little blanket for it.
Oh, that's smart. It takes a little extra time for that thing to kick up in the winter, but man, smoking in the winter, that's nothing like it.
It'll do great. We are in the Channel Seed Studios. Appreciate our dear friends at Channel Seed for supporting all of Iowa everywhere. Well, where should we start? I think we start with Iowa State basketball, and then we'll get into all of the football that happens. Iowa got a big basketball win over the weekend as well. Of course, we will touch on that. NFL playoffs continue tonight. A lot of people are Vikings fans who watch this show. I know I am. And, of course, the college football playoff continues to roll along. Got to talk about the injury to Iowa quarterback Mark Gronowski. Hasn't even taken a snap yet.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do all that. Iowa State, I actually, full disclosure, Chris, I thought they would lose on Saturday to Texas Tech. It was just one of those spots. And you looked at the Vegas line compared to the metrics line. Just everything was like baiting you to take Iowa State. And Vegas got railroaded with this one because this Iowa State team is really special. I think we're starting to learn. They were down 13 points. They make the comeback. And it seems like, what's fun about this team is it could be a different guy every night that is kind of your star. And I said this with Bloom last night, but I'll say it to you too. It's just fascinating to me with all these guards that when you need a game-winning play, you drop an inbounds play for your big man. Joshua Jefferson, and that's cool because it just shows you how versatile this not only some of these individual players are, but the different lineups that TJ Otzelberger can go to when he needs them.
That was the most impressive win of the season for Iowa State. I don't know that you can argue for another. Of course, you had the game against Marquette where they were number 5 in the country, but that was at home, and I don't know that Marquette's a top 5 team. Just the way that they got punched in the mouth, down 13, and you knew that they would come back. Usually teams like that, like Iowa State, they will come back. Then Texas Tech counters. And they go back up. They're in position. Iowa State, every time Texas Tech had that push where it looked like, okay, if Iowa State doesn't do something right here, it's over. Every time they did it. And on the road, and in that environment. I really could not have been more impressed. And that was, I remember saying that just when it got to overtime, before they even won the game. They just have so many special little pieces. Like you mentioned, I mean, it's whether it's Jefferson or it's Gilbert or it's Lipsy or it's Heisey making a big play on the boards or Momcilovic with a crunch time three. It's just like you think you have them. Iowa did. Iowa thought they had them. The same thing, up 13. You think you have them, but they just have this championship medal to them that they get back up and they keep fighting and they keep fighting. And when the clock hits 0, they're the last ones standing. And to win a game like that proves to me that this team can win a Big 12 championship.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that win, that's the type of win that Kansas has gotten for 15 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are the types of wins that Iowa State has generally escaped them. Because Tech played well. They shot almost 50% from three. Iowa State really was poor offensively, specifically in the first half. And it's fun, too, to watch what TJ's doing in these different types of matchups, right? So what kind of stood out to a lot of people, and I think a lot of fans don't necessarily understand all the time, is like, well, why is Momcilovic on the bench at the end of these games? It's because Heisey, you needed his defense against Williams, and he goes out there and holds Darian Williams to like 5 of 14 shooting or something like that. He had 9 rebounds. And you know, there was a game a week ago where it was the Momcilovic game where he goes out and hits 4 threes, and it's more of an offensive game for you. The one play that stood out to me the most from this one was Lipsy at the end of regulation, taking it up the left side, making the dish, and getting that thing to overtime. We're finally seeing a healthy Tamin Lipsy, healthy-ish. Again, I don't truly think he's ever healthy, because he's just so banged up across the board. But it is a new – Lipsy's like in a new era, I think, of his career where we had to see him be more of a scorer the last two.
He doesn't have to be the superstar on the team.
He's just your heady floor general who he only took 5 shots. But I would love to see his three-point percentage post-Maui. I should look that up because I would guess it's close to 50%. Because he's very reliable. When he doesn't take many of them, but he's turned into a very reliable three-point shooter. And then the big dudes. I mean, this Chatfield continues to make a huge impact for them. So this is fun now, Chris, because Kansas comes to town on Wednesday. I was really glad that they won at Cincinnati just for the sheer entertainment factor of this game. You're going to get 2 top 10 teams. You will have a road trip at West Virginia next Saturday, which will be a tough one. They got off the deck and won at Colorado on Sunday, and this is a kind of a pinch me. It's like that, when you look at like the odds to win the national championship right now, I want to say Iowa State is 4th or 5th in the country. I'm actually surprised they're not higher. Them and Houston are almost dead even money to win the Big 12 outright. They're making a statement to be the best team in Iowa State history, and we'll see. March judges that. Like you can't make that declaration
right
on January 13th. But this team, man, it certainly has all the pieces to be just that.
And a different situation now, where usually, no matter where you're playing Kansas, you feel like they're the big dog and you're punching up. And even though you might be favored by a couple of points, it's still Kansas. Iowa State now appears to be a better team than Kansas. They're in a better position than Kansas. They're in first place. Kansas has a loss already in conference. You mentioned the odds. Iowa State has better odds to win the conference than Kansas, better odds to, I think, win the national championship than Kansas. And you're going to be 2-3 possession favorite in this game. So that's going to be, especially for Iowa State fans, It's a different spot, like a different feeling. Usually, as I remember, Kansas was always coming in as the top 3 team in the country.
Agree.
And you were looking to show them, well, this is Hilton Coliseum. This is different. We've got Hilton Magic. We're going to win this game. Now, your shoe's kind of on the other foot this week.
Yeah, I guess my goal for Iowa State right now, I'd love your opinion, is to just get a 1 seed. Like, I don't care what it looks like. I mean, these regular season conference titles don't mean as much to me now because the league's so big, right? Like it would be awesome. I'm not just get a 1 seed, get a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
I come from a different spot because as an Iowa fan, that's always something that I've wanted because it's never happened in my lifetime. Iowa has never won. I mean, I think it was 1979-80 the last time they won a regular season Big Ten title, and I still want to think it's a really big deal. You're right.
Do you think it is?
Well,
let's debate that because it is like so. Like you look at these schedules, they're so different.
I think it is because of you're going to be able to raise a banner. That's going to be how you remember a team. It's a lot more important than and impressive than winning a conference tournament championship.
Which those are a dime a dozen now in Ames, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
We've got so many of those.
So like what's the thing you haven't had in the last 20, 25 years? It's a conference championship in the regular season like they had in, what was that, 99 and 2000.
Yeah. I'll buy that.
I think it's still a huge deal. Like it means nothing for your postseason, but I think it means a lot for how good the team is and how you remember the team. Now, I know times have changed, and you're right. It's not a balanced schedule anymore. So, is it fair to judge? Does that mean that you were the best team? Well, look, if you win this conference and you go, you only have 2 Big 12 losses, and the second place team has 4, then yeah.
I think they could realistically go like 17-3 in the Big 12 and not win the conference.
Really? So you think Houston?
I mean, it's possible.
Or Arizona could.
You got to realize, Chris, this is different, man. Like this Big 12 now, there are bottom feeders that suck, and it just depends on how. I haven't done enough. I'm sure somebody out there's done more research.
Who's your bottom feeder? Like Cincinnati was in the top 20.
Yeah, they're
a week
not.
ago. They're 0-4. Colorado beat UConn and had you down in the second half.
Kansas State got beat by
0-4.
30 this weekend. Let's see where I feel like they could be tanking.
Maybe
I don't
Oklahoma
know.
State.
You're good point. Maybe I feel this way because Iowa State's just so much better, right? Like when you're a middle of the pack team, nobody's a bottom feeder. But when you're as good as they appear to be, I mean, they're going to be 15 to 20 point favorites in multiple home games the rest of the way, which is
so you
just
don't think
crazy.
If Iowa State wins a Big 12 regular season championship, you don't think that's better than any tournament title that Iowa State's won?
No, I didn't say that. I think it absolutely is. I'm thinking like big picture, where do I want the program to be? I think it'd be awesome to get a 1 seed because that's where my head's at. Like,
well, if you win the Big 12 regular season, you're gonna be a 1 seed.
You should. Yeah, you should.
I don't know
in
that there's
recent
a
years,
world
it didn't
where you're
necessarily mean that though, because the Big 12 will beat itself up so much. Well, now what I'm saying is like there's 16 teams in this league. You're going to see a lot fewer upsets, even like at home, and like for the 10th team, the 10th team isn't beating the first and second and third team as much. There's a bigger gap between those, and I would love to break it down. I did it with the BPI with ESPN last night. It said Iowa State had the 50th toughest remaining schedule in the country. Kansas had the 46th. Houston had the 20th. And I think Arizona had like the 16th. So you're already seeing that's a poor balance in Iowa State's favor. But I don't know. I'm probably overthinking this. By the way, overthinking with McKenzie and Scott will be today at noon here in Iowa everywhere. I'm legitimately like my goal is to like get to a Final Four. That's just kind of where I'm.
Well, yeah, I think that's the bar now for Iowa State.
I also am so biased because I loved the round robin, and I understand we have to move on, we evolve or we die, all that crap. But this Big 12 slate feels different to me. Like when it used to be every Saturday you turn it on and like 4 of the 5 games are like, holy shit, this is theater. Like, because these teams are all so similar. There's 10 teams, 8 of them are going to the tournament, and now like you're seeing a lot of like, oh, they're a 16-point underdog. Like I have to get my mind to where the Big 12 is now, just from a setup standpoint. There's not necessarily anything wrong with it. You're doing the same thing as everybody else. It's just very different than what I grew up in.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at same thing in the Big Ten. Iowa is in L.A. this week. They're going to be playing USC and UCLA. So I get what you mean. Like if Iowa was really good this year and they had a chance to win a Big Ten regular season championship, you're right. It wouldn't mean as much to me the way the Big Ten is now than it would have, 10 years ago.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Not that it wouldn't. To answer your question, I would rather have the regular season title. Mm-hmm. If I could get that outright, I would rather have that than the conference championship or than the tournament. To answer your question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that there should be 2 big goals for Iowa State, and one is to win the regular season championship. The other is to get to a Final Four.
Yeah, I think that you're the other thing too, and it's and I hope that Otts and the fellas in the Sioux Cup, right, that they think that they're going to be back here again, like that this isn't just a one-time deal. And it certainly feels like the trajectory of this program, when you look at what they took over, what they've done, they've been good even with bad. Like that first team that they went to the Sweet 16 with was not a good, talented team. They just coached their asses off, and those guys played really hard. And you got a decent draw. But you get the feeling it's just, I'm like this with my Vikings all the time because it feels like every 10 years the Vikings have a chance to do something special, and they never do. And then I'm like, I got to wait another 10 years, right? And I've been doing this long enough. Like, you have a legitimate national championship contender in Ames right now.
Yeah.
And you want to just soak it in and don't want to let that slip by. So it's like, well, how do you do that? Like, I want to secure a 1 seed, get the best possible draw, and get to a freaking Final Four.
I promise you, if they win the Big 12 regular season championship, they will be a 1 seed. I don't see any way that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you may be right too, because again, like I just don't think the league is going to beat itself up more. I think you're going to have like the 3 or 4 really high end teams, and then I don't know, 7 or 8 teams of the 16 will be in the tournament. Maybe more. I haven't done all that research yet, but it feels like 10 on back is just going to be pretty average, and that's completely normal when you blow these conferences. Like it's kind of inevitable. I want to thank our friends at Game Day Men's Health for sponsoring 2 Guys here on Iowa Everywhere. New year, new you, baby. I feel like this is my first day of the year. I know it's crazy. Everybody went back to work recently, but I had that death of my family last week, where I woke up in the middle of the night on Sunday and had to sprint back to Clarinda, and last week was just a mess. I feel like this is like my first official like work week of the year. And when people feel that way, Hassel, they are hyper motivated. You can be like me and Brett Favre, and you can get into the best shape of your life. I honestly think I'm in better shape now than I was definitely at 25.
Really?
I think 40-year-old Chris could whoop 25-year-old Chris's ass.
Could you whip Brett Favre's ass right now?
Maybe.
I don't know. He's got that copper fit in those Wrangler jeans. He'd kill you.
I'm hearing too is that people are name dropping 2 Guys around the country when they walk into game day. That's pretty cool.
Downs was saying that. They're people are like, Iowa Everywhere. That's where we heard.
I'm not kidding. I had a friend in Atlanta look up a Game Day Men's Health. Like, this is a real thing. We forget that this show is, while it's based in Iowa, we have a huge national audience. We really do. Like, I was doing a deep dive yesterday, and I'll share it with all you guys when the time is right, on our audience. And in 2024, people listen to our podcast in 16 different countries.
We're big in Zimbabwe. Huge in Zimbabwe.
Huge in Zimbabwe. No, I'm serious. Like, so that is a very real thing.
I was pulling the numbers this weekend too, just from our 2024. We had almost 2 million people download or stream our show. That's pretty cool.
We had I think 50% growth over the year, and I would anticipate having Keith and Andy for 9 months in 2025 will be an even larger number. But no, that is true. We have guys going to Game Day Men's Health all over the country. So thank you so much to them. New year, new you, baby. New year, new you. Quit being a fat ass. Get to game day.
Man, I feel I thought I was gonna kind of start New Year, new me right after New Year's, but then I got sick.
Yeah, what was wrong with you this weekend? I didn't hear from you at all.
I've been fighting a cold. I came down with it. What was it? Wednesday night. So I've kind of been fighting that. It's kind of going up and down. And last night, oh God,
are you okay?
We ordered a pizza, and I ate the whole goddamn thing. There's nothing left. Usually we always have like 4 or 5 pieces left. I couldn't stop eating. When I get sick,
really,
I get super hungry. And so I stepped on the scale today. Oh God. I've got some work to do. I really need to. This is the first time I didn't really make a real New Year's resolution, but it's the first time in years that I thought, I got to do something. I've got to get a little bit better with the way I eat and working out and just getting movement.
But you're one of the healthier friends I have. Like, you're the only friend I think I have who would fly into Vegas and say, I got to get on the fucking treadmill. Like, I don't have another friend that would do that.
Well, I've let it slip just a little bit. The key is you can't let it slide. You can let it slip, can't let it slide. Slip, but no slide.
I feel you there, dude, because when we did that little Disney excursion, like I hadn't taken 3 days off from working out since April. And I did not want to get back in the weight room after that. Like, once you stop doing it, you're effed.
Van Winks, you're trying to direct me to the nearest Game Day Health in.
Who's your closest one there?
There you go. You need, honestly, what you are describing is low T.
No, it's not. I told you, I got my T checked. What do you mean? Me having a cold and eating a full pizza? That's
Mr.
low
Hassel,
T?
You have 0 T. Mr. Hassel, you have 0 T.
I told you I got it checked. I'm in the normal. I am on the low end of normal.
Yeah, just do it,
So I
man.
know what
It's
would
not
happen
gonna
if
hurt
I
you.
went in to see the game day specialist. They would say the same thing they kind of said to AD. Look, you're in the normal range. We can start you on a treatment to boost it a little bit, to get you more on the high end, but you don't have to. And I don't know that. Look, I'm already taking medications for other things. I don't know if I want to add another. I went to see the urgent care doctor over the weekend because of my sickness.
Because of your cold?
Yeah. Well, because I wanted to know if, look, this is why I'm your healthiest friend. It's because I do things like this.
Takes care of himself.
You want to know, so if it was COVID, for instance, they could have given me Paxlovid and I'd be better in like a day. If it was a flu, they could treat it a little bit different.
If you're a fat
it came
ass
back negative.
And you got COVID.
It came back negative. So he gave me an antihistamine.
Negative.
Is it lupus? So anyway, I went in there and the nurse was a man, which is fine. But he had a lazy eye.
Oh.
And
so he was giving you that stink eye.
Yeah. He had just gone to the playoff game the night before. He's a big Penn State guy. But he had a lazy eye. And so I'm kind of thinking about that. And he's like, geez, you're pretty young to be on all these medications. Like, God damn, do you want to make me
So
feel like shit?
He's judging you?
Yeah.
The guy with the
because-
lazy eye.
So
is
I've been
judging
on a medication for anxiety since I was 16 years old.
I'm
on
right
that.
there with you, brother.
And I'm also on 2 different high cholesterol medications because it runs in my family on both sides. No matter what I do, my cholesterol was high. Remember, I told you this story. I went in, that we were having a routine screening at work a few years ago, and they checked my cholesterol because I'd never been checked before. They're like, oh my God, we got to get you to the hospital. It was like, I don't know, it was like 350 or something like that. And I weighed 170 pounds. And so I went in there and they put me on one medication, and that brought me down, but not down far enough. So then they gave me another medication. So yeah, I'm on 3 different medications daily. And my cholesterol is fine now.
I probably did I tell you the story about Bloom's wedding in my blood test?
Is that like you took a blood test the night after you drank like 40 beers?
Yes. And my like triglyceride count, like the nurse called and she wasn't concerned, but she was like, "Hey, you probably didn't. Did you fast?" I was like, "Yeah, I fasted." She's like, "What did you do this weekend?" And I was like, "Well, I bet I had 30 beers that day on Saturday, and then I got my blood tested on Monday."
30
beers. She's like, "Your triglyceride count, it's like you're like a 500-pound man." I was like, "Can we just come back in later in the week and recheck it?" And we did, and it was fun.
Yeah, when I get my blood tested, I try to do it on like a Wednesday or a Thursday. Get it away from the weekend because I don't want that thing getting skewed.
And also, if you're gonna do like your annual physical, don't do it in January right after the holidays. When you've been eating like shit.
Right.
It's a terrible way to do it. I did that one. Oh, yeah. Anyways, there you go. Iowa, best win of the year.
Iowa.
Best win of the year. Just curb stomped Indiana on Saturday night.
Best win? I don't know. I think they played their best. Now, I don't know about best overall win, but this was start to finish. This was the Iowa team that I think we thought we would see more often throughout the year. They just absolutely destroyed Indiana. In Indiana, look, they're not a top 25 team. They were 4-1 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean they're like a bubble team.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean they're kind of right there on par with Iowa, and Iowa looked, completely outclassed them. And I think again, they played some defense. I mean, they forced 6 Indiana turnovers before the first media timeout. They came out and they actually had intensity and effort on defense, and they were turning Indiana turnovers into points. They destroyed them in points off turnovers. I mean, that's where if you're just even in that stat and you're Iowa, you're sitting pretty because of how bad of a defensive team they often are. But this was, I think, kind of a statement game here. Like this is an Iowa team that is not as bad as we saw at Wisconsin, not even close. And I think that we might be looking back at that Wisconsin game like that's the best thing that could have happened. Because it's just one loss, and it's not a bad loss. Like you were a 6-point underdog anyway. You weren't expected to win that game. This isn't stroke play. This isn't the PGA Tour here, where you have a hole and you shoot a 10 and it screws up your entire round. It's match play. It's just one loss. What did they do? They turned that into 2 wins at home, where they took that personally. I can't remember the Wisconsin player's name, but he said that we knew they didn't want to play defense. That clearly motivated Iowa to come back and play some damn D, because they did it earlier in the week in the comeback win. They held Indiana to 60 points in this win. Thelwell was playing great. He had a bunch of steals.
Which game was he out? Was that the Nebraska game?
And they missed him. They really did.
They really did. You could tell
they still won the game
Saturday, like how big he can be for that team.
They needed to win both those games, and they did. I didn't see this just wall-to-wall effort and intensity on the defensive end in them. But now you got to take it on the road. And,
who
this
do they
team,
have this week? I haven't.
They're in L.A. right now.
Oh,
they
okay.
already flew into L.A.
Oh, that sucks. I mean,
yeah.
A lot going on there right
So they have to play at USC and at UCLA. And they should – I haven't seen the line.
Didn't USC get a big win this weekend?
They did.
Yes.
USC won a road game, which was a surprising win because they were
At
1-3 in
Illinois.
conference at number 13, Illinois, by 10. So I think USC will be a slight favorite at home, and UCLA is pretty good.
We just try and split this weekend.
Although they've been sliding. Yeah, I think a split would be great.
Yeah.
UCLA's lost 3 in a row, and they've been blown out.
Well, their coach
in those games.
lost his mind.
Yeah,
Mick Cronin.
So they're in a weird spot. UCLA.
They're either going to quit or be desperate. One of the two.
So get a split, but I just don't know. Like usually you have some kind of reference point. Well, usually when they do this California swing, they're not very good. They usually play like shit out there, like the football team usually does out west. They're terrible. You have no point of reference. I have no clue. That USC game is 10:30 Eastern. That's a 9:30 Iowa time tip-off at USC tomorrow night. So I don't know. I'm not even going to be up for it. I'm going to record it and watch it back the next day.
You're going to stay up for your team? You're not
No,
gonna watch
I'm
your team?
not until 12:30 in the morning. I've got to work.
It's so fucked up.
It's crazy.
Big Ten, baby.
And I'm sure there won't
These
be much of
stupid
an atmosphere there.
coast-to-coast conferences are
Oh,
the dumbest thing college athletics has ever done.
Yeah,
Iowa doesn't have any quad one wins, but they're going to have some good opportunities and some at home too. Hassel, they got Purdue at home in February. They're going to have Oregon at home in late February, and then Michigan State go on the road at Illinois. So you're going to have some opportunities for some.
They
nice
will.
wins.
They can't afford, a quad two losses, and they've been fine in quad 2 games. They haven't really done anything quad 1 yet, but I think if the tournament started today, I think they'd be in.
I love this time of year where we just start counting the quad games. This is great.
I don't know I think USC is a quad 2 game, and they're going to be a slight underdog, so that's probably a big game. I think the USC game, because of that, I don't know. Would you rather have what split would you rather have? Would you rather have a quad 2 loss?
No, I'd rather get
or quad 1 win.
I'd rather get the road quad 1 win.
Okay, so you're fine with the quad 2 loss.
Yeah, because
you're right.
People would look
you're
at
right.
it and they would go, "It's on the road." If you could get the quad 1 win away from home, that would, in theory, be their best win of the year.
You're right. So you'd rather have the UCLA game, which UCLA's they're net 32. Southern Cal is net 76. They made a big jump.
Well, so Southern Cal, in theory, Chris, that isn't top 75 road games quad 1.
Yeah.
So that's
yes.
So they're a slot away.
They're right-
that could very well
right
be
there. Yeah.
quad 1 game by the end of the year. So
yeah, what is top 75 on the road is quad
Yes.
1. Top 50 neutral is a quad 1. Top 25 home, right? Or
I
top
think
30,
so.
something.
Top
yeah,
30, I think. Whatever. It's so confusing. We look at what we've done.
I am impressed though that Iowa has responded. But look, this is what they're supposed to do. This is what I expected them to win both those games at home against Nebraska and Indiana. I didn't expect them to look that good against Indiana, but I expected that. It's what you do on the road. It's what you do when you don't have like this added motivation. Like that Wisconsin game, that kicked them in the ass, but can they keep this going? can you keep it going on the road?
I want to talk
don't
about
know.
the post game. Owen Freeman took a shot, and I didn't really know what he was going for here. I don't know if it landed the way
you know the backstory, right?
Yeah, I do. But I hadn't even picked up on this until you sent it in our rundown. That he said this. I'll let you run through it here.
Well, I'll set it up before we listen to it.
Go for it.
The media last year named Owen Freeman the Big Ten Freshman of the Year, but the coaches named him the co-Freshman of the Year with a young man from Indiana, and I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not even going to say it. But the stats were pretty similar. I mean, I remember at the time thinking, okay, I mean, yeah, Freeman won a bunch of Big Ten Player of the Week awards, and if it was based on that, he would be maybe not unanimous, but he would be the Player of the Year. But they named him Co, and this is what he said after the game, where he really, I mean, he was a lot better than the co-freshman of the year from last year on Indiana's side.
All right, thanks.
It was never co-freshman of the year. I'm just going to make that apparent. Never.
So I don't know where to go with that. Part of me loves it. Part of me is like, God damn it. You just won 2 games. You kicked their ass on the court. You're already having a tough time winning over fans and for not being a very likable, for whatever reason, program. Do you want that? I don't know.
I'm with you. I was debating in my head if I loved it or hated it. I guess, like, if you're like a passionate, diehard Iowa fan, you love it. I will say,
because I mean, we're always saying we want these guys to speak their minds and not be, you know, all this coach speak.
But I'll say this, like, for me, who's not like a diehard, passionate Iowa fan, obviously, I didn't get it, and I wonder how many people that like actually hit, like how many people watching that would like, oh yeah, because there was that co-freshman of the year thing in March. Like, it's not like a MVP in the NBA that we would all like be debating, or did we even talk about that last year?
No, and
but I guess
to your point, I had to look it up. Like I remember he was co-player of the year with someone else. I didn't remember who, and I didn't really care.
Yeah.
It was Mackenzie Mbako, I think is his name. And in this game, he had 6 points, 6 rebounds on 2 of 6 shooting, while Freeman had 16 points and 12 rebounds. So he clearly outplayed him, but I'm not going to sit here and say he shouldn't have said it, because part of me is like, I want more of that.
Guys to talk shit. That's where I always land.
You know, you if you're using that as motivation, and man, you did just totally wipe the floor with him in this game, awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go one way or another here, because I'm kind of conflicted with my own take on it. It did just kind of surprise me coming out of the mouth of a player.
That was, again, what was so surprising, because I didn't even, but I'm guessing like the diehard Iowa fan knew what he was talking about. I would guess.
Diehards, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
they're
London
like,
says, was the comment,
guy.
London is asking, or Landon, I'm sorry, was the comment completely out of nowhere, or did a media member say something referencing he was co-freshman of the year? I think he just said it at the very end. I don't think it came up.
I think it was clearly on his mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the question, I guess, becomes, do you want him to keep that inside the locker room?
Nah,
or do you want that to be out there? Because this can kind of be the situation with the Wisconsin player that after the game said, we knew they didn't want to play defense. All of a sudden, boom, that motivates Iowa. And you know what? Wisconsin has to come to Iowa later in the year. That could come back to bite you. It could. So does Indiana make a return trip to Iowa? I don't believe so, but you could see them in the Big Ten tournament. So I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and be the judge of what you should and shouldn't say.
Well, because Iowa killed them so badly, this was the most interesting part of the game.
Yes,
which is
it was.
That's a good thing if you're.
But it's also to get into the mindset of these players. Like Peyton Sanford even said after the game that
Sanford's great on the mic.
They felt like they had been written off and disrespected, and I don't necessarily agree with the disrespected part. Like Iowa brought that on themselves with that completely embarrassing performance at Wisconsin. But you know what? All you can do is come back and show up and play your ass off like they did this past week to turn things around, and they did.
Yeah.
But now they got to keep it going into Los Angeles in a really weird week coming up.
Yeah, and then you add into the fires and all that stuff like that. You just fly into that. It's just bizarre.
It sounds like, from what I was reading late last night, that the Lakers and the Clippers, they're going to start resuming home games, I believe, tonight on Monday night.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
I think that
good.
As far as where we are Monday morning, it's looking like it's going to be okay to play these games. But
and
who knows? It's a fluid situation.
Best friends from high school went out there to be in show business, and he lives out there now. And he was telling me, like, the fire hadn't impacted his family or his house, but they couldn't even, like, go outside over the weekend hardly because of the air quality. It was just horrible.
I can't even imagine.
Well, and these winds just keep picking up out there,
and that's the problem.
fires
It could
keep
totally
starting,
change
so-
things. It could totally change things again. I hope not. And, you know, the USC campus is kind of close to downtown, more kind of in the middle of the city, but UCLA is much closer.
Right next to the Palisades. So,
all right, Maddie, real quick, let's help our friends at the Iowa Wild. They got some big events coming up here. I love the puck. Love going there on
You're
the
a
$2.
puck daddy.
I don't even like hockey, but it's fun to go and, like, when you're on the glass and you just pound on the glass and taunt the opposing players, get real drunk. I'm kidding. You don't get real drunk, but I have had that opportunity to be on the glass before, and it's a hell of a lot of fun.
yeah, this is awesome. The Wild have like 5 upcoming home games. Their big one's coming up next Saturday. They've got this post-game concert. So after the game, your ticket gets you into the game to watch the hockey game, and you get to stay afterwards and watch a concert. They put the stage like at the end of the ice, and they let people actually come down. They'll put like flooring down on the ice, and you can go down. So your ticket will let you get, access to the show. It's Saturday, January 25th, Iowa Wild versus the Texas Stars. So come on down, get your tickets, iowawild.com. Again, they have like 5 different home games coming up throughout the next couple of weeks. So good opportunity to get down to Wells Fargo Arena and watch some puck.
Yeah, good local entertainment right there. You can also, while you're out there, hit up the Full Court Press family of restaurants. Buzzard Billy's is right there. You just go out and get yourself some beers. I like the gator.
Yeah,
Buzzard Billy's.
The fried gator.
I always get that. It's on the appetizer portion, and I just get it for my meal. Do you eat gator down in Florida, Hassel?
I haven't seen it on many menus down here. I had gator once when I was in Louisiana, but I don't see it on many menus down here.
It really is like dark meat. It's kind of like a darker chicken is how I would describe it. A little
dark meat chicken.
A little more tender.
Spicier to it, maybe.
Spice.
Yeah, because they'll do the little spicy seasoning with it. I love gator. It's phenomenal. I always get that at Buzzard Billy's. Also, wanted to, Full Court Press, our friends at Full Court Press for supporting what we do here on Iowa Everywhere. Let's do our Kelderman Manufacturing. Bigger, better, bolder.
Bigger, better, bolder. Built by Kelderman Manufacturing.
I don't even know where you're going with this. Who are you picking?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking you, Hassel. I'm sorry.
You want me to start?
Yeah, because you didn't put it in the rundown. I'm curious where you're going with this.
I did.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Van Wink's got it ready to go. Pull that sucker up, Van Winks.
What the hell happened in this game?
The biggest comeback in women's college basketball history. SMU was beating Pittsburgh 46-14 with 1:37 to go in the first half. Okay? 46-14. They were up by 32. I guess it's tied for the largest comeback in women's basketball history.
Yeah, claim
Not only does Pittsburgh come back to win the game, how much did they win by, Van Winks?
Ooh, what was the final? 72.
They won by
13.
That's unbelievable.
Oh,
From down 32 to winner by 13
How
points. And that's
demoralizing.
Pittsburgh's first conference win of the season.
SMU.
Jesus Christ.
That's an incredible stat.
Amazing.
wow.
Okay, that's going to be tough to beat. I'm going to go with Johnny Broome from Auburn, maybe the best player in the country. He's definitely in the top 5. And he went down on Saturday. They were, my mom loves the Gamecocks down there at South Carolina. Playing South Carolina, we were keeping an eye on that game. And I was hoping South Carolina would win because I wanted Auburn to lose for the sake of Iowa State. Broome goes down, and it looked like he was, done. Looked like he was done for the year. And he is going to be out a while, but really happy just for college basketball and for this guy that it's not a season ender. Now, it does get interesting because they have a tough stretch coming up where he's probably going to be out for a while. I would guess Auburn will get a loss here in the next 3 games. They've got Tennessee. They've got to go to Georgia. They've got really tough games. A tricky one with Mississippi State, who's not bad. That's an NCAA tournament team. A little sportsmanship here on 2 guys. I'm really glad this isn't a season-ending injury. It's just great for the sport, and you never want to see that.
I like it.
What you got, Maddie?
I'm going to jump back to Iowa State real quick. We didn't really talk about Curtis Jones. Man, Iowa State would not have been in that game if it weren't for Curtis Jones. Probably played, what do you think, Williams, his best game as an Iowa State Cyclone in this game? And on the road,
it's hard saying. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And isn't it cool, the guy who just voluntarily comes off the bench in 2025?
I love that just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think John Walters put this tweet out the other day. In conference games alone, he is the Big 12's leading scorer, 20.8 points per game off the bench.
That was my take right after on CF postgame was I know we're talking about him as 6th man of the year, but he really should be in the Big 12 player of the year conversation.
First team for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, definitely first team, but I can make an argument that he's
at this point.
Yeah. Has anyone ever won a 6th player of the year in a conference and also the conference player of the year?
I doubt it.
Chris Andringa had the stat out there.
I doubt
games
it.
with 20-plus points off the bench for Iowa State since the 1978-79 season. It's Tyrus McGee, another Iowa State legend, came off the bench for Fred Hoiberg. He had 7, and Curtis Jones just passed him with 8. So props to him, man. He's been shooting it well, playing great defense, clutch shot after clutch shot. So, man, if they can keep getting that from him throughout the rest of the year. Whew.
Yeah, neat story and just a really selfless guy. There's just not many dudes at that level that are like, yeah, I'll come off the bench. It's the best thing for the team. I don't need to hear my name at the beginning. It's awesome. He's a really neat guy. Let's do this. I want to do this Iowa quarterback conversation here real quick. Also, Vikings-Rams tonight. So we do have the NFL playoffs that continue. That game will be in Arizona. Mark Gronowski, the new Iowa quarterback transferring from South Dakota State. And we got a little Friday news dump from our friends at the University of Iowa that he is going to have surgery and will not be able to practice until June. Chris Hassel did an instant reaction when he committed. What do you think about this?
It's not great, not ideal, not what I think most Iowa fans thought we were getting. Thought we were getting a healthy quarterback that was going to hit the ground running in the spring and be able to, work with Tim Lester on the field throughout the spring, be in the spring game. Because that's been one of the things that's been holding Iowa back over these last several years is the quarterbacks that just aren't ready. I mean, remember last spring it was Deacon Hill was the number 1 quarterback. Cade McNamara was still fighting his way back from injury. And Tyler Sullivan didn't get in until late. And now it's like, okay, well, now he can't. It's going to be a 5-month rehab program for what sounds like an arm injury. Like that's not good. Like Iowa isn't saying what the injury is, but just reading quotes from his old coach from their playoff run, it sounds like they were kind of babying him a little bit in these games, for lack of a better term, because of an arm injury to his throwing arm, and that's what he's going to have surgery on. And then it came out in an Athletic article over the weekend that Miami was talking to him and was interested in him until they found out that he was going to need surgery. Their offensive coordinator was going to go to Sioux Falls to meet with him, and then they found out that he was likely going to need surgery, and they pulled out. Now, they ended up getting Carson Beck, who has already had surgery himself, and paid him a lot of money, $3-4 million in NIL. But I don't know. Maybe this is all just going to be fine, and he's going to be able to get up to speed, and the surgery isn't going to affect him at all. There's nothing lingering that's going to happen, but it's just not what I think the fan base was led to believe when they got this guy. Like we were not led to believe that this was a guy that wasn't going to be able to do anything physically until June and was going to have an arm issue.
I'll give you two takes. One, feels like, yes, it was too good to be true. When you look back via hindsight, too good to be true, the way it was presented and all that. Two, I'll give you maybe the realist. When it comes to quarterbacks and the transfer portal, how realistic is it for Iowa to not have to have a little bit of baggage with whoever they get?
Right.
You know, like
Miami
can pick and choose.
Right.
It's like, we're Miami.
But when you pay what the number that's being thrown out there, $1.2 million, when you pay that for somebody, you expect them to be, okay. Yeah.
Well, it's like when Iowa State started getting all these transfers in basketball. Like,
right.
If Royce White didn't have a criminal background, he wouldn't have been at Iowa State.
If Royce White would willingly get on an airplane, he would have been somewhere else. By the way, I said Tyler Sullivan instead of Brendan Sullivan. I work with a guy named Tyler Sullivan. He's a writer for CBS Sports. Next time I do that, Williams or Van Wicks, call me.
I didn't even notice it. So
I saw somebody in the comments like, "Who?
I never remember
Tyler
Sullivan. I never remember Sullivan's first name.
Now Iowa has another Sullivan. I mean, they've got the guy that looks like Opie from the Andy Griffith Show and Shaggy from Scooby Doo and Jackson Stratton.
Action Jack.
I'm not gonna, completely overreact and be like, oh Jesus Christ, here we go again. Well, there's no way that this guy's gonna be any good. I'm not gonna do that. But I am a little bit disappointed that this isn't the perfect situation that we were kind of hoping that it was going to be. I just hope everything goes okay with the surgery and the rehab, and that he's going to be 100% up to speed by the time the season starts, because I can already hear it now. Well, it's August. We've only had him, on the field for a couple of months, so he's not 100% up to speed. And then, we get into the season and we get these excuses like, well, we couldn't expect him to be, have 100% grasp of the offense, and he's still working with his receivers and all that. Because I can already hear it now. No excuses.
Thinking about, we haven't reported on this. Do you know where Linez ended up going?
I saw it, but I don't remember.
Elon
Musk University.
It just like their high school quarterback recruiting has been so bad.
Yes.
It really, like, we need
They've
to have
all
them
transferred. Everybody since what? Stanley? They've all transferred out.
In, like, to really low-level places. I mean, Labus is by far the most successful of any of them, right? I mean, Petrus, I guess, had a decent year. Petrus
wasn't bad at Utah State, but he's also 25 years old.
Yeah, my God.
Slinging it around on a
Well,
team
you
that's
were
playing
naming
from
off all
behind.
these quarterbacks, and I was like, where did Linez end up? Elon. All right. Well, fun show. Appreciate you. Skull Vikings. I don't feel good about it. And if we do win, we're losing to Philly.
I think you caught a little bit of a break, though. This is not.
Yeah, but
this is
I would
not
have
a true road game.
I would have much rather gone back into Detroit. Dance with the devil,
The
sort of
Rams
thing.
don't
There's
even
no
have
way
any
the
fans. Opposing
There's
teams
no way
just
the
take over
Vikings
that
are
stadium anyway.
winning.
That's true.
At Philly, there's no chance. So it's probably one and done for us if we can get tonight. But I don't know. I'd almost just lose and get the better draft.
Jesus, Williams, you've got a playoff game coming up tonight. You're a favorite in the game. Just enjoy it.
I can't. This is life. You win that game last week, you're going to the Super Bowl. Now you're losing in the first round. All right, he's Chris Hassel for Maddie Van Winkle, doing a great job, as always, with our production. We will be back on Thursday. We have Overthinking today at noon. We have Murph and Andy at 1 on Iowa Everywhere.